Live. It's time for America Outdoors Radio. The fast-paced hour of outdoors radio ahead is not only awesome, but unlike those other shows, you can actually sleep in for this one. Better still, we've got a special Pacific Northwest edition for you, sponsored by Northwest Sportsman Magazine, Rugged Point Lodge on Vancouver Island, and Northwest Fishing Guides out of our hometown here in Everett. You won't find this version of America Outdoors Radio anywhere else. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. Brought to you by Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
It is indeed the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and we'll be checking in with Jim Stahl again this hour. He's with Northwest Fishing Guides based out of Everett, and he'll be checking in from the Mid-Columbia River with a Chinook salmon and coho salmon fishing report. We'll also talk to Matt Gaget at Rugged Point Lodge on Vancouver Island. He's wrapping up his season, and now is the time to book for next year. We'll ask him if the once-in-a-generation forecast for off-the-chart salmon fishing really came true or not. Keith Eschbaugh with Dutch Fork Custom Lures has got some new chrome plastic blades that are amazing. He'll tell you all about them at the end of the hour. But first, it's time to tell you what's hot in the Pacific Northwest. State creel checkers found the coho catch rates to be pretty low last week on Lake Washington, but the perch bite, at least that's red hot, especially near the Magnuson Park boat launch. Flounder and other flatfish are about the only thing you can catch out on Puget Sound near Everett and Seattle right now, and Wayne Cruz with the Everett Herald dug into the topic last week, talking to a couple of folks in the know who recommend the area in front of the Langley Marina or the bar running eastward toward Everett from Hat Island in 65 to 120 feet of water. Another place to try for sand dabs, sole, and flounder is the Everett Mukilteo shoreline in 50 to 90 feet of water. Clams, squid, or Berkeley gulp shrimp fish just above the bottom will do the trick for these fish. On the hunting front, the high buck hunt ends tomorrow, and several game management units will also close tomorrow for early archery deer hunting. But there are others that will remain open till September 30th, so there is still time to notch that arrow and bag a buck. The 24th is also Public Lands Day, and that means you can recreate at U.S. Forest Service sites as well as your favorite Washington State Park for free today. No day passes are required. And now, it's time to check in with Jim Stahl again with Northwest Fishing Guides. Jim, I understand you've been fishing down at Drano and the mouth of the Klickitat on the middle portion of the Columbia River. How's it been the last couple weeks?
It's been spotty. Some days it's been fairly good, and some days it's been really slow. Probably lay a little more to the slow side, but the weathers have been somewhat decent. So, I mean, fishing's fishing, but it's not exactly what we want right now. So.
Yep, I was just down there myself, and boy, there's a lot of people fishing off the mouth of the Deschutes and the mouth of the Klickitat right now, and similar experience. It seemed like the ones that were doing pretty well were hover fishing, but it really depended on the skill of the fishermen because that's a light bite. So let's talk about the coho. Are they going to be showing up soon? Do you expect us to have a fishery down there in the Columbia for the coho? Because I know they usually show up there off the Click too.
Yeah, it's still been kind of slow going over the dam with them, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I think we're going to see the run down size on the coho. They already have a little bit on the Chinook. I think they dropped it down 100,000, and I think they're probably going to go a little more than that. But we should see coho any day. It's just, I mean, that's usually later in September and 1st of October. It's thick with them, so it should be any time.
Well, there you go, folks. If you want to book a salmon fishing trip, whether it be for Chinook or coho, go to Jim Stahl's website, nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net. Jim, thanks as always for the report.
Yep, take care.
And with that, let's head to this week's national edition of America Outdoors Radio.
Want a trip with some of the most talented anglers on the water? Then book a trip with Northwest Fishing Guides. Salmon. That's right, salmon are their specialty, and you'll get a chance to catch them out of the mighty Columbia River from a comfortable and sturdy 26-foot boat. Northwest Fishing Guides will take you out for steelhead and sturgeon too, and can also accommodate your saltwater fishing desires. So whether you want salmon in the cooler or other fish on the line, book your trip now at nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net. Book your trip with the best.
Looking for a way to get the message out about your business to hunters and anglers throughout the Seattle and Everett area? Then consider advertising with America Outdoors Radio on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO. To find out more, contact John Cruz through his website at americaoutdoorsradio.com.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Fall is here and hunting season is in the air, and that's why it's time to share the Ducks Unlimited waterfowl forecast for 2016. And there's quite a bit of good news. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, duck numbers in the traditional survey areas were statistically similar to last year's estimate and just shy of the record. As a matter of fact, total populations were estimated at 48.4 million breeding ducks. That's 38% above the 1955 to 2015 average. With the exception of northern pintails, populations of the 10 most abundant duck species were at or above their long-term averages. In addition, the projected mallard fall flight index is 13.5 million birds, which is pretty much unchanged from last year. On the Pacific Flyway, the breeding grounds in Alberta saw a drop in production, but numbers are still 17% above the long-term average. Better news is found further north in the boreal forest of northern Alberta, northeastern British Columbia, and the Northwest Territories, where the abundance of breeding ducks increased 22% in 2016. That's, get this, 93% above the long-term average. In Alaska and the Yukon, breeding ducks were up 28% this year and are 17% above the long-term average. This means that when the northerns come down into the western United States, the hunting should be very good this year. As for the local duck populations in the western U.S., that's more of a mixed bag. Much needed precipitation improved wetland conditions in parts of the region, but habitats continue to suffer the effects of sustained drought in many areas. In California, total ducks were up 30% compared to last year, but still are 27% below the long-term average. In Oregon and Washington, duck populations were down 24% and 37% respectively, despite some improvements in wetland conditions. So, might be kind of a rough opener out here in the West. We don't have specific numbers for our listeners in Tennessee, but the numbers are up for most of the breeding grounds in the Mississippi Flyway, where duck numbers are 15% above the long-term average in Manitoba and a whopping 25% above the long-term average in Minnesota. Looks like it's going to be a very good winter to be a duck hunter. So, what do we have for you this week on the show? Well, we'll be talking about duck hunting and duck decoys with Dario Levantini. He's the owner of the Auto Jerk Decoy System in California, an ingenious device you're going to want to hear about. We'll also tell you about an incredibly small and light knife sharpener you'll want to carry with you in the field. It's called the Speedy Sharp. Once you skin that deer and butcher it, you'll probably put a portion of that meat in the freezer. Hank Shaw, the author of a great new cooking book called Buck Moose, will share some do's and don'ts when it comes to storing game in the freezer so it tastes great when you take it out to eat. Let's not forget fishing either. Late September and October is a great time to be bass fishing, and a lot of waters empty out this year because a lot of anglers are hunting instead. FLW tournament angler Nick Wood joins us from Northern California to share some tips about what to use fishing for bass this autumn, and also share some great waters in the western U.S. you ought to be dropping a line in this fall. In addition to this, we'll share the 2016 pheasant hunting forecast with you later in the hour, as well as a quail hunting forecast for our Tennessee listeners and a ptarmigan hunting forecast for our Anchorage listeners. And finally, only in Texas will you find a place where you can hunt hogs and white-tailed deer or exotic big game animals, pet free-ranging giraffes, and drive and shoot World War II era tanks. That's right. It's called the Ox Hunting Ranch and Drive Tanks, and you're not going to believe this when we tell you about it later this hour. But before we get any further into this, let's talk venison. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we're talking to Hank Shaw. He is the author of a brand new book called Buck Moose, Recipes and Techniques for Cooking Deer, Elk, Antelope, Moose, and Other Antlered Things. Hank, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Hank, I thought we'd spend some time talking about do's and don'ts when it comes to game meat in the freezer. And I know a lot of us, myself included, have had some game meat in the freezer maybe a little bit too long. How long can you keep something in the freezer if it's vacuum packed?
If it's vacuum packed, virtually until the second coming. I had a 2.5-year-old hunk of antelope once, that was buried in my box freezer, and it had not broken seal. So I thought it out, and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be any good. Perfectly fine. I mean, if you think about it, there are those scientists who were up in the Arctic, and they thawed out that woolly mammoth,
Right.
and they ate the woolly mammoth, and it was, they said it was a little freezer burn, but otherwise fine. So it's not going to hurt you. It might lose a little bit of quality, though.
So let's talk about the way most people have their meat. They're either put in a couple Ziploc bags and throwing it in the freezer, or, they're put in a wax paper and then wrapping it in paper. How long is it going to last in that sort of situation?
So I really never, ever, ever recommend the Ziploc bag method, because you're talking freezer burn in a matter of weeks, not even months.
Right.
The traditional butcher paper method, that one method works pretty well. It's been tried and tested for many, many years. And it's still not quite as good. It allows a lot of air in. So this is a reason why you talk a lot about trimming every bit of venison fat off your deer, elk, because there is enough contact with the very cold, dry air in butcher paper that will cause freezer burn in anywhere from 9 months to a year. So, if you have a nice piece of, say, backstrap with no fat on it, and
Sure.
it's perfectly nicely done, you could last a year with butcher paper.
Okay. So let's say we get that venison out. There's a little bit of freezer burn on there. How do you deal with that? What's the best way to deal with it?
Trim it off. I mean, that's the easiest way. I mean, if it's horribly freezer burned, what you might want to do is think, I know there's a good piece of meat in there somewhere, but I'm going to have to slice off a whole bunch of freezer burn stuff to get to it. So rather than waste all of the freezer burn stuff, I end up throwing it in a pan with some oil and roasting it until it's nice and super crispy brown, and using that as a base for a very quick broth to cook rice or pasta or something like that.
Very clever. Now, you've got a really cool tip in your book here, How to Thaw Meat Fast, and it's completely counterintuitive. Tell our listeners, if they're in a hurry to get some meat thawed, how they can do it.
Well, the easiest way is if you have your meat vacuum sealed. If it's vacuum sealed, then it's in a bag. It's not going to get wet. So what I will do is I'll take my big soup pot and I will fill it with cold water and drop the roast or backstrap or whatever it is in there. And it acts like a big ice cube. And so the same reason that ice melts in your drink is the same reason why your meat is going to thaw very quickly. I know, it sounds counterintuitive to use cold water, but here's the thing. With cold water, you're still going to thaw the meat, but you're not going to heat it. So you end up not having an outer edge of that meat that is slightly cooked, or that could be bacterially active. You want to keep things refrigerated even though they're sitting on the counter. So if you have warm water and an ice cube in it, that's no good. But it's the same. I mean, have you ever fallen into a cold lake?
Oh, yes.
And you know how quickly it sucks the heat out of you?
Oh, yes.
It is the exact same thing.
Ah, all right. One last thing before we go here. And this is a sin I have committed myself, where I've taken some meat out, put it in the fridge, unthawed it, and then for whatever reason plans change, and I want to put it back in the freezer. I understand now that's a big no-no, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it probably won't hurt you from a food safety standpoint, although there is some bacterial risk. The biggest thing, though, is every time you freeze and thaw meat, you lose moisture in that meat. So freezing freezes all the liquid that, and you and I and all other animals are about 80% liquid. It freezes all of that. And as you know, ice is bigger than water, so it expands. So expanding breaks all those cell tissues. So when it thaws, all of that liquid comes out. It looks like blood, but it's not. And then if you do it again, then you lose even more. So you end up with very dry meat if you freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw.
All right. That's just some of the great tips, and there's tons of great recipes, wonderful photography as well that you're going to find in Buck Moose. Again, it's a book that's full of recipes and techniques for cooking deer, elk, antelope, moose, and other antlered things. Look for it at a bookstore near you or at Amazon.com. Hank, thanks for sharing this with us on America Outdoors Radio.
Happy to. Talk to you soon.
Head to Texas to hunt game at Ox Ranch. That's where you'll find thousands of animals, both native and exotic, that you can hunt. If you prefer not to hunt, that's okay. Feed our free-ranging giraffes. Strap on your helmet and drive a tank instead. Ox Ranch is also the home of drive tanks, where you can drive and shoot real World War II tanks like the Sherman tank featured in the movie Fury. We've also got artillery, mortars, and machine guns to fire, as well as flamethrowers. Find out more about Ox Ranch and drive tanks at drivetanks.com.
Do you long to hunt Africa's most dangerous big game? Big Game Hunting Adventures offers that. Hunting free-range Cape buffalo in some of the wildest untamed country left on the continent. You'll be the only hunting party tracking free-range buffalo on 160,000 acres of land, where the borders of Mozambique, South Africa, and Zimbabwe meet. They include pickup at Johannesburg International Airport, and they're among the most affordable you'll find in all of Africa. Book your safari today at BigGameHuntingAdventures.com.
Sometimes it's okay if you're loud. Sometimes it's best if you're not. Silent Strike offers the quieter performance. Silent Strike is the world's only functioning .223 subsonic ammunition. When you need both performance and stealth, no matter the situation, Silent Strike is the best performance you'll never hear. Find out more at AllegianceAmmo.com.
Tom and Jerry's Boat Center in Mount Vernon is Washington's largest Hughes Craft and Kingfisher aluminum boat dealer. As a leader in sales, service, and fun on the water, Tom and Jerry's only purpose is to make sure you end up with the right boat for your family's needs at a price that will make you smile. Whether it's a new Hughes Craft or Kingfisher or a new Yamaha or Honda outboard, Tom and Jerry's can take care of all your needs. Check us out at tomandjerrys.net, and we'll see you on the water.
Did you check out this month's edition of Northwest Sportsman Magazine? If you didn't, you're missing out, because it's the best publication out there that covers the fishing and hunting scene, not only in Washington State, but in the entire Northwest. Northwest Sportsman Magazine has got great writers and great content you need to have to be successful. Northwest Sportsman Magazine is the publication for you. Find out more at nwsportsmanmag.com or pick up a copy at a newsstand near you.
Want a trip with some of the most talented anglers on the water? Then book a trip with Northwest Fishing Guides. Salmon, that's right, salmon are their specialty, and you'll get a chance to catch them out of the mighty Columbia River from a comfortable and sturdy 26-foot boat. Northwest Fishing Guides will take you out for steelhead and sturgeon too, and can also accommodate your saltwater fishing desires. So whether you want salmon in the cooler or other fish on the line, book your trip now at nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net. Book your trip with the best.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Better still, our rates are way more affordable than you think. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's America Outdoors Radio, bringing you more business.
Some of the best saltwater fishing you'll ever experience is taking place off Vancouver Island this year, and Rugged Point Lodge is where you need to go to catch them. Rugged Point Lodge offers comfortable accommodations, great food, and the chance to catch a limit of salmon, halibut, or lingcod mere minutes away from the dock. Better still, it's not too late to book a trip for this summer to take advantage of what promises to be the best salmon fishing in a generation. Book now at RuggedPointLodge.com. RuggedPointLodge.com, where fishing dreams come true.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. This portion of the show is brought to you by California Sportsman Magazine. It's the monthly publication covering the hunting and fishing scene throughout the great state of California. Look for it at a newsstand near you. Speaking of California, we're talking with Dario Levantini from Lodi, California. He is the owner of the Auto Jerk decoy system that duck hunters are going to love. Dario, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, I thought with duck season here. The youth seasons are already opening up throughout a lot of the United States. Teal season's been going on, and now the big season starts in October, that we ought to talk about duck decoys and just some of the basics here. And I guess I'm going to start off with size. To life size versus magnums. What do you prefer and why?
It kind of all depends on the hunter. Some of them prefer larger magnums. We've always just used life-size decoys, but if they're a good-looking decoy with a good paint job on them, I think they're pretty well equal.
And here's another question for you. When it comes to the decoy spreads, myself, I mainly just use mallards, but I know a lot of people are really into, there might be some pintails, so I got to have pintail decoys, and I'm going to hunt teal, so I got to have some teal decoys. Do you really need the whole mishmash of different species, or can you just get by with a couple dozen mallard decoys?
Once again, it's what you prefer. Here in California, we have a lot of mixed bags, and you try to up your odds by having the different variety of decoys out there in your spread to catch their attention.
What about confidence decoys? Are you a big believer in like the heron decoys or some of those?
Yeah, I think it all helps. I think it's all part of the puzzle of tricking these birds and getting them in close.
Another question along the same regard, and there's been kind of a philosophical change in the waterfowling community regarding this, is how many decoys is enough? I know back in the 80s, you'd see people hiking in dozens and dozens of decoys to throw out on a pond, but now it seems people are going really minimal, and you'll see people with just like half a dozen decoys on a small body of water. What's your opinion on all this?
Yeah, it's these birds, as they migrate down, they see hundreds and hundreds of spreads, and I think as season goes on, the guys that have had a lot of decoys out will start pulling them in and ending up with a dozen, 2 dozen decoys on each side, just trying to make it more realistic.
Again, you got to fool these birds that are getting wiser as they move south, and by the time they hit California, they're pretty savvy to what a duck hunter's got coming. So let's talk about one other thing, and it's not legal in all states. So folks, if you're listening in Washington, for example, what we're talking about next is not legal, but electronic decoys, whether they're the ones that have the Mojo spinning wings or a system like yours, the Auto Jerk decoy system. Is this really as big of a game changer as people say it is?
Yeah, it's taken one of the oldest decoying methods out there, which is the jerk string, and it's automating it. So it's an effective system. You can get more or less movement out of it depending on how the birds are reacting or what the conditions are like. But it's just upping your odds by putting a little ripple on the water and a little decoy movement and making it look more realistic.
Now, I have hunted with guides who will, manually pull one decoy out of the spread that's set up with a jerk string, and I've seen people use the Mojo system where they have 1 or 2 spinner decoys out there that are electronic. I've seen the wind ones too, but yours is unique. The Auto Jerk decoy system, you've got like the whole spread moving, don't you?
Yeah, you can hook up to 12 decoys on one unit and put duck butts or skimmers. You just make it look realistic and get some movement throughout your spread and give you a better chance getting them in close.
Have you been able to actually compare what you have versus, the non-moving decoys? I'm guessing just out in the field where somebody's at pond A, somebody's at pond B, and all things together, those ponds are equal, but you're drawing more birds because of the Auto Jerk decoy system?
Yeah, you're always looking for that extra edge, and within the other decoy system, everything's got to be right. You got to have good cover. Your dog's got to be hid, good calling, know when to call, and you have to have the right movement out there. You can't have too much or too little, but it definitely will up your odds. There's no doubt about it on killing more birds and getting them in closer.
Well, there you go, folks. Just another tool for the toolkit when it comes to duck hunting. The Auto Jerk decoy system. Check out the website. There's a great YouTube video that explains exactly how it works. You'll find that website at autojerkdecoysystem.com. Is your product available in sporting goods stores?
We're in a select few. You can get it on our website at autojerkdecoysystem.com. That's the best way to do it.
Again, folks, autojerkdecoysystem.com, the place to go to put some life into not one, but a whole bunch of your decoys. Dario, thanks for sharing this with us on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to change subjects here, and if you're like me, you probably own some knives, and you might use them for cleaning fish or cleaning game or all sorts of things when you're out in the field. And as for me, I'd like to tell you that I always keep that knife sharp. I do have some knife sharpeners at home, and I do try to make the time to keep them sharp. But we're going to talk to somebody, Wayne McGuay from Speedy Sharp, who's going to explain why you might want to bring a knife sharpener with you. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. So, Wayne, I'll be honest, I usually don't bring a knife sharpener with me because the ones that I own are, well, frankly, they're a little bit bulky, and I'm always trying to save on space and go as light as I can when I'm in the field. Why should people bring a knife sharpener with them, and why the Speedy Sharp?
Well, a couple of reasons. Since hunting season's right around the corner, I know everybody's starting to plan their hunting trips and what to include in your backpack, because space and weight are limited. I mean, nobody wants to go into the field fully loaded with 40 pounds of stuff on them. I mean, my rifle alone weighs 9 pounds.
Right.
So you add in the water, food for the day, first aid kit, anything else, you're going to take binoculars or anything like that, and you're up already at 15 pounds or so, 20 pounds. So Speedy Sharp actually only weighs 1.5 ounces.
Wow.
It's a nice light tool. It's 4.5 inches long and 1.5 ounces. You won't even notice you have it. Carabiner in your pocket. So if you do usually take multiple knives in the field to be able to dress your game after you've completed your hunt, this way you only have to take one knife with you. And you can sharpen it in the field in just seconds. I mean, just a few swipes, and you're right back in the game cleaning your game.
How'd you go about designing something so light and so small for folks to use out in the field?
Well, the original owner of our company, give you a little background, our company's been in business since the 70s. Family-owned business. We're right in Meridian, Idaho. It's a small 100-person factory, family-owned and run. And the owner of the company, the original owner of our company, Jack Newberry, designed this tool to be able to take with them hunting, fishing, just something to have in your glove box, your toolbox, your fishing box, or in your backpack. So it's designed to be light, and it's made with steel handle, 4.5 inches long, about an 1/8 inch wide. The carbide itself is about 1/4 inch wide, 1 inch long. So it's nice and lightweight. I mean, it goes right on a carabiner. It's perfect to carry with you in the field.
All right. Well, I think you've got me sold, and I think I'm going to start carrying a knife sharpener in the field, especially if it's one that's produced by Speedy Sharp. Let's give folks a website so they can take a look at this and find out more about it.
Our website is speedysharp.com, or you can go to your local sporting goods stores and ask for them there.
Easy enough. SpeedySharp.com is the website, or just ask for the Speedy Sharp at your local sporting goods retailer. Wayne, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Great. Thank you so much.
With hunting season right around the corner, you need to be ready. Speedy Sharp is all you need to take on your hunt to sharpen every edge you have when you are on the prowl for your favorite game. Speedy Sharp will sharpen all your knives, including serrated and hawk-billed knives, as well as broadhead arrows. Weighing 1.5 ounces, ultra slim, and only 4.5 inches long, you won't have to worry about lugging a heavier sharpener around. This hunting season, when you find yourself in the backcountry with a buck to dress, Speedy Sharp will make sure you never lose your edge.
Log Cabin Sporting Goods is the only fully stocked sporting goods store on Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. Let Log Cabin outfit your next fishing, camping, or hunting expedition. We can supply you with every outdoor amenity imaginable. Melissa, John, and the crew are gearing up for a big end-of-year sales event. We're planning specials and great closeout deals happening now through Christmas. Search for Log Cabin Sporting Goods on Facebook and follow us there to check out the Facebook Friday deals. Log Cabin Sporting Goods.
It's time for another local shot of the outdoors. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and you'll only hear it here on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
We're talking to Matt Gaget again at Rugged Point Lodge on the northwest coast of Vancouver Island. And Matt, this year, the forecast for the salmon was a once-in-a-generation fishery. It was supposed to be that good. Did the fishing live up to the forecast expectations?
Well, Not really, but what it did having the forecast is it opened up a bunch of areas that have been closed in a long time. So it was a different season, but the fishing was really good offshore until about the second week of August. Mm-hmm. And as the offshore petered out, the inshore picked up. So we had a good year, but a lot of the places on the coast had a tough season, but we still managed to get our Chinook just about every single trip.
Well, I noticed that. I mean, just talking to you over the length of the season, you did get into the Chinook. You got them consistently, and you got some really nice size ones. We talked last week about the fact that the coho didn't show up till the very end, and I understand that even the tuna showed up at the very end, too.
Yeah, well, the coho showed up at the end of August, and boy, were they big. Most of them were 12, 15 pounds. We had 17-pounders. We had a 22-pounder on the dock, and the tuna did show up. They were a little bit further out, but we had some good weather, and it was a lot better than it was last year.
So there you go, folks. Chinook salmon, coho salmon, there's halibut, there's bottomfish, and even occasionally tuna. Now is the time to book for next year, and the website to go to is ruggedpointlodge.com. That's ruggedpointlodge.com for some excellent saltwater fishing while staying at a wonderful lodge. Matt, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Okay, John, you take care.
There's a whole bunch more of the great outdoors coming your way on Fox Sports 1380.
Some of the best saltwater fishing you'll ever experience is taking place off Vancouver Island this year, and Rugged Point Lodge is where you need to go to catch them. Rugged Point Lodge offers comfortable accommodations, great food, and the chance to catch a limit of salmon, halibut, or lingcod mere minutes away from the dock. Better still, it's not too late to book a trip for this summer to take advantage of what promises to be the best salmon fishing in a generation. Book now at ruggedpointlodge.com. ruggedpointlodge.com, where fishing dreams come true.
Did you check out this month's edition of Northwest Sportsman Magazine? If you didn't, you're missing out, because it's the best publication out there that covers the fishing and hunting scene, not only in Washington State, but in the entire Northwest. Northwest Sportsman Magazine has got great writers and great content you need to have to be successful. Northwest Sportsman Magazine is the publication for you. Find out more at nwsportsmanmag.com or pick up a copy at a newsstand near you. Back with America Outdoors Radio, I'm John Cruz, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Northwest Sportsman Magazine. It is the publication that really covers the hunting and fishing scene throughout Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. Look for a copy at a newsstand near you, or go to the website, nwsportsmanmag.com. We are going to talk bass fishing. I know everybody's putting up their rods or getting out their bows, their rifles, their shotguns, but there's some good bass fishing to be had in late September and in the fall, and one person that knows that is tournament angler Nick Wood, who's based out of California. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
So, Nick, I thought we'd talk a little bit about bass fishing here in the fall, but before we do, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and the tournament series that you fish?
Well, I'm a bass pro from Northern California. I fish the FLW events out on the West Coast, and a lot of pro-ams. There's a new pro-am circuit out that Gary Dobbins is putting on, the Wild West pro-ams. Fish that. A lot of team circuits, too, as well. I fish the ABA with my team partner, Justin Gordon. Pretty much all the pro-ams out on the West Coast.
Well, I thought we'd run through some bodies of water over in the western United States and then talk about tactics that you'd like to use to fish them. And let's start off with a lake that you've had some success at as a tournament angler, Shasta Lake near Redding. Tell our listeners a little about that lake and what it's like to fish that in the fall.
Well, yeah, I have had a lot of success there. It is my local lake, but as far as in the fall fishing it, if you're going to be it really depends on what you're trying to target. If you're going out and fishing it as in a tournament situation, I like to look because trout is a huge food source for the bigger spotted bass in that lake. So I try to target what the trout are targeting, which is the shad, but I'm typically throwing a swim bait in areas that has got current breaks, and so long main lake points where the river channels break off. So those fish, because in the fall, you're still in that transition of summer to fall.
Right.
So it doesn't happen overnight. So these fish are moving up and down throughout the day, and so I try to target areas that gives those fish that ability to, back off and get into that 15 to 20 feet of water, or move up and get aggressive on a swim bait. So I really, really like throwing swim baits in the fall. But the second bait that I throw probably as much or more in the fall, it would be a spook. That's another bait that's phenomenal there in this fall. A lot of tournaments are won there throwing spooks, but I would say between a spook and a swim bait and an Alabama rig, those would be my top 3 baits that I would throw in the fall there. Now, that's in a tournament situation. If you're going out and you're wanting to just catch fish,
sure.
The fish, the shads move shallow now, so there's just fish busting everywhere.
Nice.
And they're those 2-pounders, and they're just, you can go to 100 fish a day. But it's like they're all 2 pounds. So if you're just wanting to go out and have fun and catch fish, I'd go out, I would run up the rivers, find, a little more current, and I would target those areas because you're going to get a lot of bait up there. You're going to get a lot of, it's just a ball. You can catch a ton of fish up there, and but I don't really target that because the bigger spots ain't targeting that shad. They're more after the trout.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about another body of water, Nick, and let's head up north to the Columbia River. I just got back from there. There's a magnificent smallmouth bass fishery that really is underrated. It doesn't get a whole lot of pressure up there. When it comes to smallmouth and it comes to a big river like the Columbia, how would you recommend fishing for those fish in the fall? I
would be throwing a spook. I would be. It's all about bait in the fall. You're wanting to find the bait, and I would look for current breaks on the Columbia River where they can move up and they can feed, and then they can back off into that river channel again. And I'd be throwing top water. I'd be throwing an Alabama rig. The Kitex have become extremely popular in the bass fishing world. It's just they can't keep up with them. I'd be throwing a lot of Kitex. I like to throw Kitex with a spinning rod on a dart head. It's a little small, subtle profile, and you'll just hammer them on those baits. So that's what I would do. I would stick with any kind of small bait as far as trying to match the shad and things like that. I'd throw an LV500 also. I know LV500s and rattle traps and stuff like that are just deadly up on the Columbia.
Oh, they are. In fact, you just mentioned my favorite lure to use. I love throwing rattle traps right over by those rocky islands that are all over the place in the Columbia. And you're right, the smallmouth just smashed those things.
Yep, they're a good bait.
Another body of water to talk about here, and this one's, even further north and a little bit east, Lake Coeur d'Alene. Very unique fishery there because you've got everything from Chinook to northern pike to trout, and you've got bass fishing there too, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I was up there. I fished a BASS event. It's been quite some time ago. I believe Brandon Polnick ended up winning it. That place is a phenomenal place to fish. It's so diverse. There's so many things that you could do there. You could flip. You could get off in deep crank rocks. You can. It's a really, really. It reminds me a lot of the California Delta as far as the current because of the rivers coming through there.
Sure.
I've fished it, and I have not got a lot of experience up there in the fall because it was in the spring when I was there. I would imagine it would fish really similar to the Delta. I would be finding little back eddies and things like that. Again, I would be throwing a spook. I don't know how it would be with an Alabama rig as far as I don't know what the foliage gets like. I know an Alabama rig, when you get around a lot of weeds and stuff, it can be a little bit. It's a tougher bait to fish. But I would definitely be throwing spooks. I would be looking for deep water, and of course the bait. That's so critical in the fall, is finding the bait.
Sure. And for our listeners who don't know, why don't you explain what an Alabama rig is? Because this is fairly new, and it's very effective.
Oh, absolutely. An Alabama rig is a spreader rig. In different states, there's regulations. California, you can put as many baits on this rig, and what it is it's an eyelet that ties to your line, and then from that eyelet, it's got wires that come off, and you can put as many wires on there, but you can only put 3 hooks on it. in California. You can put as many baits as you want. You can only put 3 hooks. I don't know what the regulations are as far as Oregon and Washington and all that, but it's basically, it was a striper. They were used it for fishing for striper, and it's just completely changed the bass fishing in the last 3 or 4 years. It's just completely, it's a phenomenal bait. I've seen days that you just couldn't buy a bite, and then you go out there and throw that thing, and it was unreal what you could do with that bait.
Last but not least, before we go, we got to talk about one of the top 3 bass lakes in the entire country, Clear Lake in Central California.
Clear Lake in the fall is an extremely good lake to fish. The problem with Clear Lake in the fall is the pressure that it gets. There's so many TOCs. It's so much is happening at Clear Lake.
What's a TOC, Nick?
The TOC is the Tournament of Champions.
Gotcha.
It's the year-end, basically, of series like the ABA has. You have your tournaments throughout the year. They have 6 tournaments. At the end of the year, the guys, you have a championship, basically, and that's where all the different regions come together for one tournament, and you fish for a boat, and it's just a year-end championship of the different series and stuff.
Nick, we got to go. But, folks, if you want to find out what's going on with Nick, just go ahead and Google Nick Wood, FLW Angler, and you'll find out a lot about him. And, Nick, just want to thank you for taking the time to go through these great western bass waters and give our listeners some ideas of tactics they can use this fall, whether they're fishing out west or whether they're fishing in Tennessee, to go ahead and get some bass in the boat. It's been great to have you on board.
Thank you, John.
Did you check out this month's edition of Northwest Sportsman Magazine? If you didn't, you're missing out, because it's the best publication out there that covers the fishing and hunting scene, not only in Washington State, but in the entire Northwest. Northwest Sportsman Magazine has got great writers and great content you need to have to be successful. Northwest Sportsman Magazine is the publication for you. Find out more at nwsportsmanmag.com or pick up a copy at a newsstand near you.
Tom and Jerry's Boat Center in Mount Vernon is Washington's largest Hughes Craft and Kingfisher aluminum boat dealer. As a leader in sales, service, and fun on the water, Tom and Jerry's only purpose is to make sure you end up with the right boat for your family's needs at a price that will make you smile. Whether it's a new Hughes Craft or Kingfisher or a new Yamaha or Honda outboard, Tom and Jerry's can take care of all your needs. Check us out at tomandjerrys.net, and we'll see you on the water.
Would you like to own your own piece of recreational or rural property? Niho Land is British Columbia's leading expert in recreational and rural land. Whether you're looking for a 5-acre recreational retreat or a 1,000-acre trophy property to enjoy or leave as a legacy to your family, Niho has a property for you. Spectacular British Columbia has no restrictions on non-Canadian ownership. Visit Niho.com to find the property right for you. Remember, don't wait to buy land. Buy land and then wait. Invest now. Niho.com. Niho.com.
Fishing season is here, and you need all the deck space you can get. With Reliable Fishing Products fish bags, you get just that. These fish bags will hold ice for 2 to 3 days and will help eliminate any smells that are associated with fish holes. Each bag has a drain plug for an easy clean and are completely collapsible for easy storage until needed for your catch. Simply open a bag, add ice, catch fish, and keep them fresh. What more can you ask for? Find out more at ReliableFishing.com. That's ReliableFishing.com.
Maxim Marine in Eugene is Western Oregon's friendly, family-owned dealer for North River and Thunderjet boats, 2 of the biggest names in heavy-gauge aluminum boats. We also provide award-winning sales and service for Suzuki and Yamaha outboard motors to give you peace of mind on the water. In addition to this, we sell and install Garmin Electronics, the premier brand of fish finders, autopilots, and radar. And if you need new power on your current boat, we can give you the best pricing around on repowers. That's Maxim Marine. Come see us in Eugene.
Frontier Tactical's Warlock multiple caliber system allows you to retrofit your AR-15 rifle to shoot up to 60 different calibers with the same upper and lower receiver. The Warlock is compatible with most off-the-shelf AR-15 components, which means you get to build your rifle the way you want to. Whether you're into predator hunting, hog hunting, deer hunting, or self-defense, the Warlock multiple caliber system lets you do it all. Find out more about this innovative, made in the USA product at frontiertactical.com.
Head to Texas to hunt game at Ox Ranch. That's where you'll find thousands of animals, both native and exotic, that you can hunt. If you prefer not to hunt, that's okay. Feed our free-ranging giraffes. Strap on your helmet and drive a tank instead. Ox Ranch is also the home of drive tanks, where you can drive and shoot real World War II tanks like the Sherman tank featured in the movie Fury. We've also got artillery, mortars, and machine guns to fire, as well as flamethrowers. Find out more about Ox Ranch and drive tanks at drivetanks.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time for the 2016 Pheasants Forever Hunting Forecast, and it's brought to you this week by Northwest Sportsman Magazine, the monthly magazine that does a fantastic job of covering the hunting and fishing scene throughout the greater Northwest. I'm talking about Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and portions of Montana and Northern California. Check it out. Find it at a newsstand near you, or go online to nwsportsmanmag.com. So, we've got good news for the upland bird hunter from Pheasants Forever. As a whole, pheasant numbers nationwide, according to PF, are comparable to or higher than last year. Pheasant populations continue to rebuild in the aftermath of a decade of historic habitat loss and a severe multi-year drought that gripped the Great Plains. The traditional top-tier states, Kansas, North Dakota, and the mighty pheasant capital of South Dakota, will again offer the highest density of ringnecks. Other states, too, had their ups and downs. When it comes to California, hunters are going to be looking for pheasants in that state, in the north end of the state. Because, according to Matt Meshry, an upland game biologist for California Department of Fish and Game, the best wild pheasant populations currently occur in the Klamath Basin in the extreme north of the state. Pheasant numbers in the Central Valley remain low, but the birds have fared better in the north, like Sacramento Valley, than further south, like San Joaquin Valley. Heading north to Oregon, pheasant numbers are down 26% from last year and 5% below the 10-year average. Most of the decline was due to low counts in Malheur County, normally one of the state's best pheasant areas. Elsewhere, such as the Columbia Basin, pheasant numbers are similar to last year or even slightly better, so that could be an option for you. Moving to Washington State, mild spring weather, abundant insects, habitat improvement, and more should provide a slightly better pheasant season this year compared to recent years. Grant and Whitman counties in eastern Washington continue to produce the greatest numbers of pheasants. Based on last year's harvest data, the Snake River Basin, including Asotin, Columbia, Garfield, Walla Walla, and Whitman counties, saw the largest increase of pheasant harvest, primarily due to habitat enhancement work and increased public access. Moving to Idaho, generally favorable winter and spring weather gives pheasant hunters in the Gem State reason to be hopeful. In the Panhandle, pheasants are limited to the southern portion of the region and should exist in numbers similar to last year. In the Clearwater, hunters will probably see fewer pheasants than last year, but numbers are higher than the 10-year average, so don't despair. And finally, in the Southwest, a good population last year and favorable weather conditions should result in very good pheasant hunting this year. Finally, in Montana, ideal summer conditions have contributed to a high production of young pheasants, especially in the far northeastern corner of the state. Much the same is true in Region 4 in north-central Montana. In Region 7 in the southeast, a mild winter contributed to good overall winter survival. Spring counts include a population 20% above the long-term average. Unfortunately, heavy thunderstorms during the peak hatching system may have trimmed nest and chick survival in some of these areas. Meanwhile, Region 5 and 3 in the south-central and southwestern parts of the state also expect hunting better than last year. So, for our listeners in Anaconda, looks like you might be in for luck in your neck of the woods. We don't have a pheasant forecast for our listeners in Tennessee, but we do have good news about the quail there from Quail Forever, which quotes Roger Applegate with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Applegate believes the state's fairly mild winter did not impact bird populations. With warm weather and with average but not extreme rainfall, there is reason to believe there will be a slight increase in numbers for the fall season. So go get some bobwhites over there in the Volunteer State. And you won't find any wild pheasant or quail in Alaska, but our listeners there do get to hunt for ptarmigan. If you live in the Anchorage area, Alaska Fish and Game suggests that ptarmigan hunters can get into good hunting south of Anchorage in the Kenai Mountains by driving south on the Seward Highway. Ptarmigan are generally found above the tree line, and reaching good hunting from the road usually requires some challenging uphill climbs. Sounds like chucker hunting in the lower 48. Area trail systems can provide easier access into ptarmigan country. For easy and often fast entry to good ptarmigan hunting, just book a float plane charter into one of the high country lakes out of the Kenai, Alaska, or Talkeetna ranges. And that is your pheasant, quail, and ptarmigan report for 2016. Next, we've got something really unique for you, and this can only take place in Texas. Think about this. 18,000 acre ranch where you can hunt for native species like hogs and white-tailed deer. You can hunt exotic species. You can go on photo safaris. You can pet the free-ranging giraffes, or you can drive and shoot a World War II era tank. Maybe go ahead and shoot a flamethrower, shoot some artillery. It's all possible at the Ox Hunting Ranch and with Drive Tanks. With us here to tell us more about this really different experience is Todd DiGidio. Todd, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
So we're going to take this in little bites here. There's a lot to eat. Ox Hunting Ranch. Let's start off with an overview of the ranch and the hunting operation that's going on there.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We have an 18,000-acre ranch with all kinds of exotics, super exotics. It probably is the best hunting anywhere in the world, quite honestly, but for sure in the United States, anywhere from elk to stag to you name it. We have over 30 species. There's species here I don't even know what they are. That's amazing.
So is this your choice of guided or unguided hunting?
It is all guided hunting. We have guides that come with the packages, and they know where the animals generally are. This is a free range ranch. There's no pen. You don't go to a pen, find an animal and shoot it. It's 18,000 acres of free range animals. So and there's animals that we don't hunt here as well, like giraffes, things like that. That just free range, and you walk up to a giraffe and feed a giraffe carrots. It's a really amazing place.
It sounds that way. And folks, if you're not a hunter and you're listening to the show, consider going there just to see the animals. And again, check out the giraffes. There's bass fishing as well. Lots of hiking opportunities. And I understand you've got some really unique accommodations and some really great food.
Absolutely. We do have an award-winning chef, Cordon Bleu chef. We also have our cabins, our actual turn-of-the-century cabins with actual log cabins from colonial days that are rebuilt on premises. It's a very unique kind of settlement community with a beautiful lodge. The food is like top rate. There's no comparison.
Now let's shift gears here and talk about your part of the operation, Drive Tanks, where people actually can come and have the opportunity to drive a Sherman tank from World War II, a T-34 tank, a Soviet tank from World War II, and more modern Cold War tanks as well. This is something I've never heard of before.
Well, that's probably because it's not been done really to this extent before. This is a one-of-a-kind military adventure located here at DriveTanks.com. We're right in the heart of Ox Ranch. We do everything from being able to drive these vehicles to actually shoot these vehicles. Let's shoot an actual Sherman tank with not a puff load, an actual load that would be an anti-tank load from World War II with an actual round. And it's just very unique. We wanted to give people to learn about military history as well as be able to actually live it.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, if you ever saw the movie Fury, this is the same type of tank that's in there, the Sherman tank, and that would be an incredibly cool once-in-a-lifetime experience. But it goes beyond that. You've got artillery pieces, you've got mortars, people can fire machine guns, and even fire off a flamethrower. Is that right?
No, that's correct. The flamethrower is actually one of our favorites. It's actually a Vietnam-era flamethrower, and it really, when we say the range is hot, when we go with that one, it really gets hot. It's a really unique piece of equipment. So is our artillery. Artillery, there's no place you can really just go and say, hey, I want to shoot a 105 howitzer, or I want to shoot a World War II PaK-40 anti-tank German gun, which is the only one that you can fire in the world. So
Wow.
It's a very unique situation that we've tried to develop here.
All right, we have got to go, Todd. But again, folks, if you're looking for a truly once-in-a-lifetime and unique experience, consider a trip to the Ox Hunting Ranch. The website's simple, oxhuntingranch.com. You got to check out Drive Tanks too. That website is drivetanks.com. Think about it. You can go hunting for all sorts of species. You can go ahead and drive a tank. You can shoot a tank. You can flame on a flamethrower. You can do it all on 18,000 acres of ranch land in the hills of Texas. The website's one more time, oxhuntingranch.com and drivetanks.com. That's oxhuntingranch.com and drivetanks.com. Todd, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast. It certainly covered a lot of ground in a lot of places. If you get a chance, go to our website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. In case you missed last week's show, we've got it there for you on the front page as a podcast. Don't forget to tune in to WRVO Radio. That's the internet station that we broadcast on. We're one of 30-plus outdoors programs that you'll find at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. As usual, we hope that you'll support our sponsors, the publishers of 4 great monthly outdoors magazines that include Northwest Sportsman Magazine, California Sportsman Magazine, the Alaska Sporting Journal, and the American Shooting Journal. Look for them at a newsstand near you. Here's hoping the good Lord's going to bless you today and in the days ahead. Between hunting and fishing, there is a lot going on out there this fall, and I hope you'll get out for your fair share of both. Remember, it's your country and your outdoors.
It's time for another local shot of the outdoors. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and you'll only hear it here on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
Next on the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, we're talking with Keith Eschbaugh. He's the owner of Dutch Fork Custom Lures. Now, some of you may be aware of his Ghost Blades. They're, well, for lack of a better word, plastic blades, very lightweight, spin at slow speeds, and they are called Ghost Blades because they're colored, but they're also kind of opaque. Well, Keith has come out with some new blades that are completely different. Still plastic, still spin at slow speeds, but they're chrome.
Yes, we've taken our original Ghost Blade, which was transparent, like you said. We've now metallized them, and now we're able to do silver, golds, coppers, purples, all in metallic finishes.
You know, I was looking at some of these blades. The finishes are just fantastic. Got to ask, how durable are they?
We do a baked-on finish. You can bend the blades back and forth until they break in half. The finish will not come off. We guarantee the finish will not come off it.
I understand one of your test anglers was a muskie angler. How many muskie did he catch on this before he had to have it replaced?
I couldn't tell you. And we've also got walleye guys, charter captains that have caught hundreds of fish on one lure and blades, and they still are running the same ones.
That's absolutely amazing. So with your blades, basically you're making your own rigs and you kind of custom make it for whatever you're fishing for. Is that correct?
Yeah, everybody has their own forte, what they like, small blades, this many beads, big blades. We make it blades to what our customers want. If they want a purple blade with pink beads, we make it up correctly for them.
Now, how about here in the Pacific Northwest? I mean, we do have some muskie fishing. We certainly have walleye fishing. Could some of these bigger blades work for salmon and steelhead?
Oh, yeah. We did a big test run out here with a lot of guides, and this year we came back to fish camp, and the reports were just phenomenal how many salmon the guys caught on our blades.
All right, we have got to go, but where can people find these new blades from Dutch Fork Custom Lures?
You can find them at Bob's, you can find them at Fisherman's Marine, or on our site at www.dutchforkcustomlures.com.
There you go. Brand new blades from Dutch Fork Custom Lures. Check them out. I think you will appreciate them. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Looking for a way to get the message out about your business to hunters and anglers throughout the Seattle and Everett area? Then consider advertising with America Outdoors Radio on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO. To find out more, contact John Cruz through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.